Housing is indeed a key part of the economy, but overall economic growth has been muddling along. That's just one of the issues that will be discussed by Fed Chair Janet Yellen and other central bankers at the annual gathering of policymakers in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And that's where Steve Liesman is tonight.
When the Fed gathered beneath the Tetons a decade ago, they worried about recession and a looming global financial crisis. Circumstances are different and somewhat better this year for the annual Kansas City Fed Symposium, but issues are still pressing. For the first time in a decade, the world's major economies are growing. Instead of being on the verge of buying assets and cutting interest rates to battle recession, the Fed is hiking and near a decision to sell assets perhaps as soon as September.
You saw the minutes of the last meeting. Markets are expecting any time now, looking at September and out. That is always a function of what issues are going on when we meet to make that decision. But I think the setup is there, describing how that would happen and the approach that the committee would take.
But there's still considerable uncertainty. Complicating the outlook is a potential government shutdown next month that could give the Fed pause if it really happens. And President Trump hasn't yet decided who he'll pick to head the central bank, so this could be Janet Yellen's last meeting as Fed chair unless she's reappointed. Also unclear is whether Congress and the president will succeed at delivering fiscal stimulus in the form of tax cuts or infrastructure spending. And the Fed is debating why it continues to miss its inflation target and whether it should hold off raising interest rates again until it gets close to its 2% inflation target.
The issue, as you know, is about inflation. And I think I'm really trying to weigh the conflict between the cyclical factors, which should be creating more inflation, although with a lag, and some of these structural factors like globalization, technology-enabled disruption that are muting pricing power of businesses. And I'm not saying that we won't act by the end of the year. I just want to be, I think we have the ability to be patient here and see more information and see how these forces unfold.
Meanwhile, European Central Bank President Mario Draghi is set to speak Friday as markets speculate whether he'll announce plans to reduce stimulus on the continent next year. So it's the same majestic mountains, but a new set of issues. Global growth rather than recession, exiting easy monetary policy rather than launching it, and potentially new leadership on the way at the Federal Reserve. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Steve Liesman in Jackson Hole.